attend does not wish to be filmed or photographed, they should notify a member of staff. As we move through the agenda, in addition to discussion by Cabinet members, I will invite group leaders or their representatives to indicate if they wish to provide the views of their group or raise a specific question. Where appropriate, I will also call upon scrutiny chairpersons to comment on behalf of their committee. Voting for Cabinet will be undertaken by a show of hands in the room, and only Cabinet members who are present are able to vote. Just regarding the agenda items, please note that items 10 and 11 are deferred to the Cabinet meeting on the 27th of March, where the Cabinet member for Children's Services and the Director will be available and able to make that meeting. So, first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We've got apologies from Councillor Biggs, Powell, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Fagan, Councillor James. Are there any more apologies?
We've had apologies from also Councillor Proctor and Councillor Stark.
Okay. Have we had apologies from anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you. And just to confirm, because we've had apologies from Councillor James, Councillor O'Driscoll will be the named substitute for the group leaders item when group leaders are asked to speak. So item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any table A, table B or any other interests for items on the agenda today? No, thank you. Item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 23rd of January. No matters of accuracy have been notified to the monitoring officer. Cabinet members, are you content with the minutes of the meeting 23rd of January? It's an accurate record. Yes, thank you. Agenda item 4 is to receive any questions from members of the public. Members of the public have the opportunity to submit questions to Cabinet in writing ahead of the meeting. We have received 2 public questions for this meeting, and the response has been published as a supplement to the agenda papers. Those who have submitted a question have been given the opportunity to submit a written supplementary question or attend the meeting to ask their question live. A supplementary question can be no more than 1 minute in length when asked and must include a question. Can I ask that the clerk to confirm if any supplementary questions have been received?
Just one from Mr. Marsden. I'll just bring that up on screen now.
Thank you.
Supplementary question is for Cabinet Member for Transport and Infrastructure. It says, I will be 80 next year. I have chronic severe lumbago, whilst I was for many years an avid walker and have cycled, ridden horses and enjoyed carriage driving with my late sister. Alas, I can no longer do any of those. Plodding along in my historic Land Rover is my only means of accessing the countryside. Government have considered the matter in depth. They say TROs should only be used when other methods have failed, be minimal and in response to an evidenced problem. So, have any accidents been recorded between any of the user types proposed to be banned and any walker or rider on any of these highways?
Thank you for the question. Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Marsden, for your supplementary question. Whilst we are not aware of any recorded personal injury collisions as described, the measures have been proposed for the reasons set out earlier. I would reiterate that we are currently at the very first step of our process. Once the proposals do enter the formal public consultation phase, then I would encourage representations to be made, all of which will be duly considered before any final decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Agenda item 5 is to receive questions from councillors, and we have received no questions for this item. Agenda item 6 is reports from scrutiny committees. The Connected Community Scrutiny Committee met on the 13th of November 2024 and made recommendations around the establishing of a housing development company. This item is going to be discussed at agenda item 9. So, Councillor O'Driscoll, shall we press on and then get to the agenda item, and then you can have a comments as both representative as a group leader and as in your capacity as scrutiny chair. Thank you. So we'll come back. Okay. Agenda item 7 is the Q3 2024-25 budget report. The item is to report the forecast position for the 2024-25 budget for Q3, including explanations and analysis of the drivers for the material budget variances, and to outline current and planned recovery activity to reduce the forecast overspend. It's also to provide an assurance that progress has been made towards delivery of the agreed revenue budget and savings targets, and that the reasons for major variances are understood and are being addressed to the Cabinet's satisfaction. This agenda item begins on page 11 of the report pack, and I will now ask Councillor Stoddart to introduce the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. This report is the third forecast outturn position for 2024-25 and shows our overall position is a £7 million overspend, which is expected to reduce to £1.1 million by year end. The robust financial management, accurate forecasting and timely budget monitoring arrangements that we have put in place has enabled savings not delivered in year to be mitigated. That is, originally approved savings plans are now under review to determine reprofiling of delivery or need to revise plans. These savings have been mitigated whilst managing cost pressures in year, so need to be considered as part of the overall position. Despite the in-year challenges, the Council has responded proactively and in an agile way to mitigate timing issues in the delivery of savings, and Cabinet are working closely with the corporate leadership team to ensure detailed plans are in place to deliver savings recurrently in financial year 2025-26, and I will bring a further update on this as part of the Q4 budget report. The Council's approved net revenue budget for 24-25 is £212.8 million, which includes savings of £19.5 million, comprising of £11.6 million of Directorate savings and £7.9 million of Council-wide budget savings. Detailed explanations for variances from budget are set out in the report at Appendix A by Directorate and Service Area. This report presents the forecast outturn position for 24-25 at Q3, that is December 24, and highlights the continuing in-year cost pressures to support increases in demand across social care budgets, temporary accommodation and special educational needs transport services. The Q3 revenue outturn position for 24-25 shows a forecast variance from budget of £7 million, which is 3.3% of net budget. This is an improvement of £3.2 million compared with the position that I reported earlier at Q2. Whilst underlying cost pressures and demand-led budgets remain, the successful delivery of management actions identified at Q2 has had a positive impact on the overall outturn position. Of the £8.2 million of management actions and planned mitigations reported at Q2, £4.9 million have been delivered in the period from October to December 2024. It is expected that further planned activities in Q4, that is January to March 2025, will reduce the forecast overspend to £1.1 million by 31 March 2025, as outlined in Table 2 of the overall report. Robust timely monitoring of the revenue budget and responsible stewardship of financial resources throughout 24-25 has enabled the Council to respond to and to mitigate financial pressures. Risks to the forecast outturn position across individual budget areas have been reviewed as part of our routine budget monitoring arrangements, and this has enabled a proactive, managed approach to identifying recovery actions to mitigate the Council's overall position. A review of the delivery and status of approved savings has been undertaken at Q3 to confirm the deliverability of savings targets previously assessed as in progress. This review has identified a total of £1.9 million of savings across Directorate targets which are assessed as at risk at Q3, and the impact of this revised assessment has been included in the forecast outturn position that is set out in Table 1 of the report. The forecast outturn position for 2024-25 by Directorate is shown in Table 1 in the report, and the movement in the net budget position reflects the transfer of budgets between directorates and the separation of SEN and home to school transport budgets for transparency. Detailed explanations for variances from budget are set out in Appendix A of the report by Directorate and Service Areas. I would, however, now like to highlight the key cost pressures and movements from the outturn position reported at Q2 and are highlighted by Directorate. Firstly, the Community Wellbeing Directorate's forecast overspend of £5.7 million represents in-year net cost pressures of £3.3 million and savings targets assessed as at risk of delivery by 31 March 25 of £2.4 million. The in-year cost pressures are largely attributable to increasing demand and complexity of client need and increased demand for temporary accommodation. The Section 151 Officers Section 25 report, which was presented as part of the documents to support the 2025-26 revenue budget, provides the assurance that the Directorate budget allocation for 2025-26 reflects these cost pressures and is sufficient to meet the needs and the costs of service delivery. The 2024-25 budget assumes delivery of approved savings of £3.2 million plus delivery of savings not delivered recurrently in the previous financial year of £2.5 million. I am very pleased to say that significant progress has been made to deliver this target, with £3.3 million.
I think we've got is the speaker malfunctioning?
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yep, that's better. It had a bit of
Against this target, with 3.3 million, or 57% of the total 5.7 million target.
Hang on, I think there's a problem with the microphone. If we could just pause for a second.
Mark my space.
Whilst we're pausing, can I just check that we've been joined by Councillor Davis. Councillor Davis, welcome. Can you see us and hear us okay?
Yes, I can. I apologise for my lateness.
No. We've just started, so it's good that you've joined us. Thank you.
Thank you.
One, two, three. Is that okay? Yep. Okay. I'm very pleased to say that significant progress has been made to deliver against this target, with £3.3 million, or 57% of the total £5.7 million target, forecast to be delivered by 31 March 2025, successfully transforming the way that services are delivered whilst managing cost pressures and demand-led areas of the Directorate's budget. At Q3, a review of the deliverability of savings previously assessed as in progress has highlighted risk to delivery by 31 March 25, and as a result, £2.4 million of savings have been assessed as at risk, and this has been reflected in the Directorate's outturn position. Clear work plans and associated activity is underway to deliver the savings, but as a result of capacity constraints, these savings will not be delivered in year. Work is underway through Directorate savings boards to maximise delivery or mitigate in Q4 and to review and strengthen activity plans to provide assurance over delivery and timing of at-risk savings from 1 April 2025. Children and Young People's Directorate forecast is an underspend of £2 million for 2024-25, with forecast delivery of the £2.3 million of savings target in full by 31 March 2025. Alongside transformation and improvements in service delivery, the forecast underspend position reflects the impact of increased rigour and challenge of Directorate expenditure throughout 24-25 and provides assurance that the savings approved for delivery in 25-26, which is year 2 of the revised financial plan, are already in progress. I am very pleased to see that this year, this Directorate, through delivering its savings, is able to reciprocate the assistance that they have received over the recent past from the other directorates by now assisting those directorates who are challenged to meet their savings targets. This is the first time in the last 10 years that this directorate has delivered within budget. Forecast expenditure across service areas within Children and Young People Directorate continues to decrease as a result of review and management of residential placements and continued reduction in agency staff in social worker posts. At Q3, the SEND transport budget and expenditure has been transferred from the Directorate budget and is reported separately alongside Home to School transport budget and expenditure. Moving on to the Economy and Environment Directorate. The forecast overspend of £0.6 million represents in-year net cost pressures of £0.2 million. £0.2 million after mitigations from reductions in expenditure across energy and waste services, plus savings targets assessed as at risk of delivery by 31 March 2025 of £0.4 million. In-year cost pressures also reflect the under-delivery of planning income. I would like to highlight that this income target has been revised in the 25-26 budget, and a realistic budget for this was approved at full council on 7th February. The 24-25 budget assumes delivery of approved savings of £3.3 million plus delivery of savings not delivered recurrently in the previous financial year of £1.1 million. I'm very pleased to report that at Q3, the Directorate is forecasting to deliver £3.8 million or 89% of the total savings target of £4.4 million. Work continues to review original proposals and activity required to deliver the outstanding savings to mitigate the impacts of the 24-25 outturn position and reduce pressures on future years' budgets. The Corporate Services Directorate forecast overspend of £1.3 million represents in-year savings targets assessed as at risk of delivery by 31 March 25. In-year cost pressures have been mitigated by the application of capital receipts against eligible expenditure as approved by full council on 7th of February 25. Successful reviews of income due to the council and the management of employee budgets across the Directorate. The 24-25 budget assumes delivery of approved savings of £2.8 million plus delivery of savings not delivered recurrently in the previous financial year of £0.9 million. At Q3, the Directorate is forecasting to deliver £2 million or 54% of the total savings of £3.7 million. And work to deliver the outstanding savings in corporate services is underway, aligned to the development of the transformation strategy and activity led by the newly appointed Director of Transformation and Strategy. The central budget comprises financial transactions, minimum revenue provision and other corporate budget items including pension costs, costs in respect of the administration of housing benefit and council tax and business rate collections, together with income from the council's business rate pool arrangements. This budget is informed by planned delivery of the council's capital programme and the corresponding borrowing requirement. At Q3, the net £1.1 million overspend represents at-risk savings targets which have not been mitigated by recovery actions and efficiencies in year. Work to review the original proposals, planned activity and timescales is currently underway, aligned to the development of the transformation strategy and target operating model. I would now like to address the area of management activity and recovery actions. Excuse me again. The corporate leadership team has continued to exercise robust financial management of the forecast position throughout the year, monitoring the impact of planned mitigations and recovery actions on the in-year forecast and the progress of delivery of approved savings targets. Monthly budget board meetings of corporate directors, chief executive and S151 officer have taken place to highlight key directorate pressures and challenges in the delivery of savings and to identify action plans to manage cost pressures and mitigations for at-risk savings. At Q1, a forecast overspend of £10.8 million in 2024-25 was reported. This was expected to reduce to £6.8 million with delivery of management recovery actions. The impact of strengthened controls and the challenge of expenditure supported by a clear focus on mitigating any in-year overspends and at-risk savings is a reduction in this forecast position at Q3. Recovery actions identified have successfully mitigated cost pressures and challenges in the delivery of savings, with further activity planned to reduce the forecast overspend to £1.1 million by 31 March 2025. Corporate directories will continue to identify further mitigations to manage an in-year delivery of services within the approved budget and expenditure controls implemented during the last financial year remain in service to support recovery action in 2025. I'd now like to address the delivery of savings. Council approved a total of £19.5 million of savings for 2024-25, comprising directorate savings of £11.6 million and £7.9 million of council-wide savings. Appendix D includes a detailed breakdown of the assessment of the savings targets at Q3, and the revised assessment reflects robust challenge of savings targets previously assessed as in progress and delivery of these savings over the remainder of the financial year. Excuse me. I would now like to address...
Hello. Can I suggest that you take 2 or 3 minutes out, Peter, because your throat sounds like it just needs a bit of a rest.
No, it's okay. I'll carry on, Claire. Thanks. I'll now address the dedicated schools grant. This is an area of concern to the Cabinet and is being closely monitored as a key risk to the Council's overall financial sustainability. The cumulative DSG deficit is accounted for as an unusable reserve on the Council's balance sheet, as permitted via statutory instrument, which will remain in place until 31 March 2026. This enables all local authorities to ring-fence the DSG deficit from the overall financial position in the statutory accounts. Beyond the period of the statutory override, the expectation is that any balance on the DSG unusable reserve will transfer back to the Council's total earmarked reserves. The deficit will have an impact on the Council's overall financial position once the override position ends, and this risk is being managed alongside the assessment of the adequacy of the Council reserves as part of the Council's medium-term financial strategy. I would like to highlight that this is a major concern amongst local authorities nationally. On the 1st of April 2024, the cumulative deficit brought forward total was £6.1 million. A focused review to quantify the impact of emerging demand in 25-26 and future years has been undertaken during Q3 to inform the high needs budget for 25-26 and the Council's DSG deficit management plan. The revised position for 25-26 has a forecast overspend of £11.1 million in 24-25, and this will increase the Council's cumulative DSG deficit of £6.1 million to £17.2 as at 31 March 25. This is an increase of £3.5 million from the forecast overspend report at Q2. This increase in forecast expenditure is largely attributable to an increase in independent school placements, with a 68% increase in places in the 12-month period to December 24. A lack of sufficiency in local authority special school places means the Council is reliant upon the independent sector to meet the specialist education needs for children in the county. The increase in top-up costs, or Element 3 funding, driven by the national increase in the number of education, care and health plans, represents an additional cost pressure in 24-25. Herefordshire, like many other local authorities, continues to experience increases in demand, which are not met by corresponding increases in funding. This is a significant risk across local government, and the number of authorities with significant DSG deficits is increasing. The Council continues to work with the Department of Education, the Local Government Association and other local authorities to seek clarification on the position once the statutory instrument expires and a sustainable funding strategy for the high need budget. Measures to contain the deficit and mitigate future cost and demand pressures will be maintained by the service through the DSG management plan, and the financial impact of agreed mitigations will be monitored and reported throughout the year as part of the Council's routine budget monitoring process. I'd now like to turn to the other aspect of the budget, namely the capital outturn. The 24-25 approved capital budget of £160 million has been revised to 96.7 million. The revised capital budget includes 15.3 million of unspent project budgets brought forward from 23-24, approved movements of 0.3 million, 3.8 million of additional grants, and a reduction of £82.8 million, which have been reprofiled into future years, all of which are detailed at the bottom of Appendix B, Table 4, which is broken down in Table 4 of the report. The forecast spend position is 79.6 million, which represents an underspend of 17 million against a budget of 96.7. Full details of each project are contained in Appendix B, Table A, and this underspend consists of £4.5 million projects that will deliver below the project budget and £12.5 million in respect to project budgets to be rolled forward for delivery in 25-26 if not spent. The full capital programme, analysed by project for current and future years, can be seen in detail at Appendix B, Table B to the report. In conclusion, our journey throughout the year shows that the management action and controls over expenditure have been effective in reducing the forecast overspend. In quarter 1, June 24, we forecast £10.8 million with a revised after mitigations forecast of 6.8. Quarter 2, in September 24, we forecast 10.2 million and with a revised forecast of 2 million. And now this period, quarter 3, December 24, our forecast is £7 million with a revised forecast of £1.1 million. We are therefore committing to continuing this robust management over the remainder of the financial year to deliver on budget for 24-25. I would now like to invite my Cabinet colleagues to endorse this report and its 3 recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Stoddart. And before I invite Cabinet members to speak, I'll just highlight that how pleased I am that there's a forecast variance in children's services that is £2 million below what was budgeted, which just goes to show all of the mitigation measures and focus on improvement and focus on placements has really paid dividends, and that's really encouraging and great to know. And you know, obviously, Councillor Powell can't be here with us today, but just to thank him and his department for making sure that those savings have been achieved. First of all, that they've achieved their budget, but secondly, to be underspent in such a dramatic fashion is really excellent, and just is a hallmark of all the various hard work things that they're doing at this time. So that's excellent. So, Cabinet members, do you have any comments? Councillor Gandhi, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. As you are aware from the report, there is a variance on the community wellbeing budget, and I would just like to put some flesh on the bones of that for members of the Cabinet, scrutiny members, and group leaders. Since the budget was set, both client numbers and costs have increased significantly, with specific pressure areas in residential and domiciliary care for people with physical disabilities. The number of adults with physical disabilities receiving residential care has increased by 23%, and the number of people receiving domiciliary care has increased by 21%. In relation to costs, the average cost of a residential care placement has increased by 19%. This means that each residential placement is costing on average an additional £9,300, which based on current numbers amounts to an additional £2.1 million per year. Similar pressures are being seen in housing, where there is an overspend in temporary accommodation. The number of people needing temporary accommodation has significantly increased. Over 1,300 people have presented as homeless since the 1st of April 2024, and this is unprecedented and extremely worrying. In relation to the at-risk savings, those savings will be delivered. but due to capacity constraints, delivery has been delayed. The impact of increased demand for adult social care has diverted capacity away from focusing on the savings, as there have been more people to assess and provide care and support. Clear plans are in place, as was mentioned by Councillor Stoddard, and we are working through the savings which will be delivered in 25-26. And I just want to add that at all times the Directorate wants to give and is determined to give the best care to some of our most vulnerable people in our community, and that comes at a cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gandhi, and that's a very important point to stress. So thank you for providing that clarification and for stressing that vital point. Next Cabinet Member, Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, first of all, I just want to say congratulations again. I was so impressed with Councillor Stoddart and 151 Officer, the work they put in, the detail, it demonstrates grip, incredible sort of military precision, if I can say that, and military precision and grip, and determination, and also to the corporate leadership team and other cabinet colleagues. This isn't easy. It isn't easy. As Councillor Gandhi has I think very summarised very well the sorts of challenges that we have. I remember once at this stage somebody using a brilliant analogy of bringing in the budget is like trying to land a jumbo jet on a postage stamp. But it's like trying to land a jumbo jet on a postage stamp with some phenomenal crosswinds. As again, to refer to Councillor Gandhi, these sorts of challenges that come up again and again and again and try and blow us off track. But here we are at this stage now, Q3, where we can start to see the runway. We're not on our final approach, but we can see the runway, and it really is, I think, something to be noted that we're on course. That's fantastic work. And I wanted also to pay tribute. It's a shame he's not here. The Cabinet Member for Children's Services for what's going on with that directorate. It's really remarkable what they're achieving. And also, that I was going to say, good idea to separate the SEN transport and homeschool, because that's again one of those areas of rising need, and it's a good idea to separate that out for monitoring and for transparency and openness. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinglehurst. An excellent use of analogies there, but it eloquently points to, sets out what's being achieved before our eyes. Right, okay, any other Cabinet members? Councillor Price.
It's really only a comment, Leader, in that whilst Councillor Powell is not present, his grasp of his directorate has been phenomenal, and to be able to get us to where we are, it's been a supreme effort on his part. But I have to take my hat off to him and Councillor Stoddart, who have both been seriously ill during the last year, to be able to kept on top and get us to the position where we are looking at a balanced budget. I do hope, for all of the work you've put in, that we do arrive with a balanced budget, because I don't think we've ever been in a place for years where we've been told at the end of Q3 that we've got in sight a balanced budget. That is fantastic news, and I take my hat off to Rachel and all of her team behind her, because this is a phenomenal effort to get to this point, and I say thank you, because from our perspective as Cabinet members, we can look to the future and build on what we've achieved, and it's what you've achieved, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Any more comments from Cabinet members? If not, I will invite the floor to group leaders. I think Councillor Davis pinned you to the post there, but we'll come to you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I would also like to congratulate Councillor Stoddart and Powell and our 151 Officer Rachel. I think it's absolutely amazing to be able to balance the books like you have done, and for us to actually be underspending, I think it's amazing, because I certainly can't even do it with my budget from my kitchen. Sorry, and I concur with all my colleagues in congratulating the officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. That's very kind. Sorry, Councillor O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Leader. The Liberal Democrats welcome the steps taken to manage costs, obviously in these very difficult financial times, and strong financial discipline is critical to maintaining frontline services, and we appreciate, as you just used the term then, the grip shown on in-year spending very much. However, 8.1 million of savings remain at risk. Is it 8.1, 8.2? And while reserves and management actions may soften the impact this year, next year's budget assumes these savings will be fully delivered. The question around revenue really is, if these savings don't materialise, what contingency plans are in place, and will it mean deeper cuts elsewhere in 25-26? And while we're on the capital programme, we understand that large-scale projects obviously can be very complex, but a pattern of repeated delays in the capital programme is very concerning. When projects get pushed back, it's not just a delay in delivery, it impacts the revenue budget and limits what we can achieve in future years. The question is, why are we seeing repeated delays despite the capital programme already being reprofiled? Is this due to poor planning, slow procurement, or external market conditions? And if this trend continues, does the executive have a strategy to prevent a traffic jam of capital projects stacking up in future years? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Driscoll. And Councillor Toynbee.
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief. Yes, Greens also welcome the work that has gone into this and into managing these budgets. Just some brief points. As ever, MERS, deletion of posts, this goes on, and it does make us nervous, especially in relation to the pressure on remaining staff members, and it's not sustainable. Also, as ever, as Councillor Driscoll just mentioned, we're concerned about the delays in the capital programme, and delays in particular in public transport, cycling and walking, and the schemes that we had hoped would be well underway by now. So we're disappointed that this doesn't seem to be a priority for Cabinet. And yeah, we sympathise with the situation around the designating school grant. It's extremely frustrating that officers have to spend time and energy managing those deficits and the reserves when it's something that the government could deal with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments, group leaders. There were some questions there from Councillor O'Driscoll about, first of all, the capital project and delivery, and also with regard to the savings.
Can I go back? So,
yeah,
obviously what we have, Councillor Driscoll, is we've got detailed plans will be in place for delivery of these savings as we carry on. We've demonstrated in the last 2 years very tight financial grip. We'll carry that on, but we also will have that underwritten by the contingency reserve that we've put in place for next year.
Okay, and the specific point about the delivery of capital programme.
Again, the delivery of the capital programme is a key priority for us, because that's actually that's the tangible bit that a lot of the residents see, that can touch and feel. It's a key priority for us, and resources are under review to ensure that we've got that capacity and expertise to deliver those projects.
Okay.
As I explained a few times in, I think, the Q2 area, we are actually delivering the projects under cost. I think we're about 40% up on the previous year, and we'll continue hopefully to try and press that through our officers.
Yeah, and I think a key point that Councillor O'Driscoll is making, Cabinet, is if there's delay, then do all of the delivery of the capital projects then bunch up, and that in itself provides its own risk. So I think what we're mindful of is to make sure that any delays have an impact on delivery, and that needs to be worked through. So I think it's a good point it's a fair point to note, and to make sure that we're on top of that in terms of delivery of projects. Okay, and Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, Dean. There was a couple of comments there with regards to ambition to achieve capital projects, particularly in cycling and walking, etc. I can assure you that come this next year, you're going to see cycling and walking capital projects being delivered at a rate of knots. The funding that we have for Home Lacey Road, Ayleston Hill Transport Hub, Green School Walking, etc., etc. They're all coming to, they are having to have been slowed down to ensure that we have value engineering within the cost impacts that construction has had over the last 2 to 3 years. But all of these projects are now ready to go and will be in the procurement pipeline for this next 12 months, and they're expected to be delivered within 25 and the 26-year period, and we have clearance for the funding to extend should it need to extend. So it's not that we haven't had the ambition. We have to get to that point of procurement, ensuring that we've got the money to value engineer what it is, that the outcomes we need. So there's plenty ongoing for the next 12 months.
Thank you, Councillor Price. And just to make the point to Cabinet that the concern that Councillor Toynbee had about deletion of posts and MERS and the reduction of staff in certain areas, the deletion of posts in certain instances is because that post has been empty for quite some time. And then with regard to the capacity of the workforce, when we had the MERS scheme, making sure that there was sufficient cover in the capacity of workforce had been worked through to make sure that there weren't gaps in that service. But it's obviously right to have a concern to ensure that when there's a change in staff and a change in the numbers of posts, that doesn't have a direct impact on delivery of service, and we must always be vigilant to make sure that that's not the case. But thank you for raising that concern. Right. Okay, are there any other questions, comments? If not, I propose that we have the recommendations in front of us, and I'll propose from the Chair, Councillor Stoddard. Are you happy to second? Okay, Cabinet, all in favour? Excellent, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the performance quarter report, but in the absence of Councillor Biggs, Councillor Durkin is going to take the report on housing, and it would be beneficial if Councillor Durkin could leave earlier. So I propose that we take the housing item next, if that's okay with Cabinet. And so therefore, if we go on to the next item on the agenda, and Councillor Durkin, can you take us through the housing report, please?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, as I say, has been stated, I'm doing this on behalf of Councillor Biggs. I have Ross here beside me to answer any questions at the end, which I can't. So it's evident the county faces a housing crisis, particularly the availability of affordable and social housing. As outlined in the report, there are over 2,100 people on the housing waiting list. This is known as Home Point. 156 households are living in temporary accommodation such as B&Bs and chain hotels. Over 200 vulnerable people and physical and or mental health needs also require suitable accommodation. The gap of housing need continues to grow year on year. The effects of the quality of life of some of our most deprived and vulnerable residents living in temporary accommodation, where they can't establish a home, cook meals and live a normal family life. As the number of older residents grows across our county, we don't have the range of accommodation required to meet their needs. The lack of affordable homes forces younger generations to move away, and we cannot attract the workforce we need to support local businesses and to enable economic growth. In response to this growing need, the Council considered and approved a motion in December 2023. The motion agreed a number of actions, including a commissioning of best practice study as to how either counties have addressed these issues, and to form a cross-political party working group so we can work together to establish a long-term solution to meet the needs of our residents. The study has been circulated as an appendix to this report. It has been considered twice by the Connected Communities Scrutiny Committee and by the Cross-Party Housing Working Group. In summary, the report says that registered providers and the private sector currently and will continue to play a critical role in bringing forward the housing we need. But they understandably do not have the ability to meet the entire need of our county on their own. The report says that to address the remaining gaps, the council will need a means of directly controlling some of the future housing provision. As outlined in the decision report, there are two viable options to take this forward at this time. Working through joint ventures with the private sector, which we are currently pursuing for the more commercially viable sites, and creating a council-owned housing development company. The Connected Communities Scrutiny Committee recommendation to Cabinet is that we identify and begin the process of setting up a development company using the lessons learned from other local authorities identified in the report. The Cross-Party Working Group supports this recommendation. And finally, he would like to take the opportunity to thank the Connected Communities Scrutiny Committee and the Cross-Party Housing Group for their help to reach this stage. It is a great example of how we are all working positively together to address a critical long-term issue for our county. Thank you, Leader.
Very much, Councillor Durkin, for standing in for Councillor Biggs. Cabinet members, do you have any comments or thoughts on the item that, as Councillor Durkin has said, has gone to the Scrutiny Committee and the Working Party? Councillor Swinglehurst.
Yeah, I just wanted to build slightly on the point that was being made at the end there. That this is such a really good example of the added value of scrutiny, building on a notice of motion, and then cross-party working. And you know, we should do lots of that because it's very good to see this coming through. You know, more heads getting together, looking at this, and it strikes me as being quite a significant step forward to deal with what has been a long-standing and difficult problem that affects some of our residents very deeply. So I'm really pleased that we've got to this point.
Thank you, Councillor Swinglehurst. Very good point to make. Right. If there are no other...
I'd just like to comment. I agree. I'm sure Councillor Bigg agrees with that concept there of working together, because this is a county-wide issue that needs to be addressed, and only by working together and getting a joint agreement on how we progress and assisting with progression is the only way we're going to succeed.
Thank you. Any more comments from Cabinet members? Councillor Price.
It's not really, it's reiterating what Councillor Durkin just said. This is such a serious consideration. This is not just about this administration, it is about us all, as all councillors. We've all got to have input into this, and the scrutiny is identifying direction to travel. We all have views on it, and this, if any one person goes in a direction without taking everybody with us, we're in trouble in that decision making. So housing is really top of the bill at the present moment on how we deliver on housing, especially now other things have come into play, such as the mandating of more housing. We need everybody on side of this. Whatever party you belong to, this is the opportunity for us all to get stuck in to deliver something that's going to be for the future of Herefordshire.
Thank you, Councillor Price. I agree. Councillor Stoddart.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, this is a fantastic initiative, and certainly from my perspective in the financial world, it's one of the great things we're looking to do is, rather than just sell land and have houses built, is to develop another income stream for us, because obviously we now know very clearly from the settlement for next financial year that central government aren't going to come to our assistance, and therefore we now need to look to fund ourselves. And if we can provide another additional income stream other than council tax, business rates, so potential some skin in the game in housing and recover income that way, that's a very good long-term strategy for us, I think. So I very much support this initiative.
I would agree with you, Councillor Stoddart, but any government assistance, if they're listening, is more than welcome. So I would just have that caveat there. Right. Okay. Right. So if there are no other comments from Cabinet members, then I'll invite the Chair of Connected Community Scrutiny with that hat on, Councillor O'Driscoll, and then after your comments we can go straight to group leaders. So while you've got the microphone, you can carry on as group leader if you like.
Take myself into a corner and negotiate, I think, at some point. Wearing my chair of scrutiny hat, I'm delighted to hear all the positive responses to the proposal that's obviously come through scrutiny and then gone through the cross-party working group. We have worked very, very well together. It's been great when we all put our minds to the same task, and it's been, well, I wouldn't say enjoyable. It's been good to get to the root of the problem and understand the nature of the problem and come up with potential solutions for how we can really make a difference for the county. One thing that became abundantly clear quite early on was the level at which demand is outstripping our ability to build a new house. Well, not our ability, the ability of developers around the county. If we do nothing, I mean, I think at the moment the waiting list stands at 2,100, 2,200. It's going up by roughly 250, 300 a year. We're going to be over 3,000 by the time this council comes to the end of its natural life. And we owe this to everybody at the moment who's on the waiting list and all those who are going to come after us. We've got to put in some long-term building blocks that are going to make a real difference and start to eat into that waiting list, because at the moment we're not even eating into it. It's just going up and up and up. Lots of councils around the country have similar vehicles and they are running them successfully, and as Councillor Stoddart says, they're more than capable of providing an income stream while addressing the problem and cutting back on revenue costs. You know, it's a no-brainer, and we should have done this a long time ago. We really should, and we wouldn't be in the situation we are. But it's fantastic that we're here now. It's great that we've all worked together, and I urge everybody to support this. Wearing my group leader hat, or my substitute to group leader hat, I should say. Sorry, Terry. I'm delighted that this was put a Liberal Dem motion to put this forward back in November 2023. It really it highlights the fact that I believe that we have got our finger on the pulse, and we were aware it was a problem and that we knew it needed to be addressed, and the fact that we used the scrutiny, we suggested that the scrutiny committee was a vehicle for moving this forward, has obviously proved to be correct, and we are where we are. So I do think this was a motion, another successful motion, I would say, by the Liberal Democrat group. I'm delighted it's getting cross-party support, and I look forward to us establishing our own housing development company in the not too distant future, hopefully in the next financial year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it was Councillor Owen's motion, wasn't it?
Councillor Rob Owens on behalf of the group, yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Right, okay, thank you for that group leader comment. I turn to other group leaders who are online. Who would like to go first? Anyone, any takers? Councillor Toynbee.
Yes, thanks very much. Greens are very supportive of developing our own housing stock. Some of us can remember actual real council housing, which was a win-win-win, and it's been infuriating that successive governments have made it so difficult for councils to continue with that public service. As we know, the investment in this, the last budget that we've just had, was relatively modest. So I'd like reassurance from Cabinet that we are planning more ambitious investment in this in the next financial year, because it will certainly be needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toynbee. And Councillor Davis?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I've got some concerns about if developers decide to withdraw from the sort of development of 500 or 700 houses, for example, due to the fact that planning can take so long to come to an agreement, who then bails us out when our allocation is about 700 or 800 houses to be built? Yes.
Okay, note that question. Any other comments on behalf of your group?
Well, I think it's very good that that the county and the government are thinking about taking house building in-house. And as Councillor Driscoll just said, that it's a way of making money for the council as well. But there is an outlay to start off with. And where does that finance come from?
Okay. Thank you. Right. Right. With regard to Councillor O'Driscoll's points, thank you for those points. They've been covered. With regard to Councillor Toynbee's points, it was really important that when we decided on the capital budget for this financial year, we were not committing sums of money that we didn't know were going to be required through the process of having a development company. So I think once this development company decision has been made and work is progressed in knowing how best this company can be exercised, then we'll be in a better position to know what the capital requirement would be of launching any specific projects that this housing company would undertake. That's my understanding of that. With regard to that delivery, Councillor Davis is making points about delivery of housing across the piece, I think, whereas this is us being in control of delivering housing. We're never going to be in control of housing delivery in terms of the private sector or other sectors. So, whether they're able to deliver on housing is the issue, and whatever reason holds up the planning process or the housing building process. And there are sometimes factors beyond the council's control, and we can't force developers to build housing all at once. So demand is always going to be a challenge, especially when some of that housing is going to be provided for by the private and independent sector. But I think the point about this development here and making this decision is going to be some of that housing allocation could be directly in the hands of a council to deliver, and so therefore we can do our bit in the time frame that we want to deliver to achieve some housing. Councillor Stoddart.
Thank you, Lydia. To address Councillor Davis's comment about where the funding will come from, I would remind her that we already have £5 million in the budget to address this short-term needs, and we'll bring forward a number of sites and developments at this time.
Okay, thank you. So with those comments, and thank the group leaders for their comments, any further comments from Cabinet? Councillor Durkin.
Thank you. I like the being aware of Councillor Davis. It's always very good to be aware, but I'm sure that as we develop a business case, and we will become aware of upcoming snags, if I can call them snags, and problems, and that we will deal with them at that time.
Thank you for that additional comment. That's helpful, very helpful. Right. Okay, so Councillor Durkin, I presume you're going to, on behalf of Councillor Biggs, propose. I'll second. All Cabinet members in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Councillor Durkin, for standing in. And if you need to leave, then you may do so, please, if you need to go. So we'll go back to agenda item 8, which is the Q3 performance report. So if I can revert back to Councillor Stoddart to take us through the item, which begins on page 49 of the agenda pack. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. Today I'm very pleased to present the Q3 performance report for financial year 24-25, and this is the third report in respect to the council plan for 24-28 and the associated delivery plan of 24-25. The report supports our vision for Herefordshire and delivering the best for Herefordshire in everything that we do through its accessibility and clarity. It is particularly pleasing to see that 140 out of the 179 milestones, or 78%, that were due to be in progress by Q3 under the delivery plan for 24-25 have been completed or are on track to be delivered by the end of the financial year. However, beyond the delivery plan, the Council has achieved many successes in Q3 of 24-25. We've continued to deliver on our capital investment programme, which comprises of over 100 projects, and the table at paragraph 3 of the reports provides some highlights, which includes Barcourt Road Phase 2, Withington Primary School, improvements to schools under the school's capital maintenance programme, Section 106 delivery programme, estates capital improvement programme, road resurfacing across the county, integrated wetlands, and the transport hub. I would now like to turn to the first of the 4 council plan themes, that of people. The graphic in the report shows that of the 56 milestones in the delivery plan, 31 are completed, 21 are on target, and 3 are at risk of missing their deadlines, and 1 is paused. Improving the lives of children and young people made significant progress during the third quarter, with significant work underway to support young people into employment. This included the opening of the Youth Employment Hub in Q3, and since the opening, 90 referrals have been received, and career and employment coaches are working directly with young people either from the hub or in the wider community. Key activities to drive further improvements in the care and support of children and young people have been completed, which includes a participation strategy, education strategy, and the development of locality delivery model. These strategies provide a clear plan of action to address the challenges and seize the opportunities to improve the overall quality of life for Herefordshire's children and young people. Turning to our adult services, 13 providers for new work opportunities have signed up for the Community Activities Framework within adult services. The framework includes an innovation lot to allow for the development of new opportunities which will enable us to support people with disabilities into work. Further progress has been made in relation to the support provided to unpaid carers of all ages in Herefordshire. The newly formed Carers Partnership Board is in the process of agreeing the implementation plan which reflects the key priorities identified within the L-Age Carers Strategy 24-29. And further to this, events are planned to explore carers' views on respite provision across the county. I would now like to turn to the theme of place. As the graphic shows, 58 milestones in the delivery plan, 19 are completed, 22 are on target, 11 are at risk of missing a deadline, 3 are paused, and 3 is not on target. The Q3 data shows that the Council is slightly off target in relation to reducing carbon emissions by 1.8%. Waste Fleet partners have reduced diesel consumption, and there are further reductions expected as the new waste collection fleet was introduced this financial year, including the 2 electric refuse collection vehicles. Work is ongoing on the Council's next carbon management plan to reach our aim of net zero by 2030. The heat decarbonisation plans for the corporate estate are expected to be carried over to the beginning of the next financial year. 6 properties have been identified and a procurement framework is now in place. Hereford's Natural Flood Management project aims to reduce flood risks to the community, and a key activity to enable this is ensuring that the community is kept informed and engaged. This has included a live update of the NFM web pages, seasonal newsletters, attending multiple events throughout Q3, such as the Y Catchment Partnership Meeting, Herefordshire Rural Business Advice Day, and the Council's Rivers Conference. Work will continue into the next quarter, such as the Council supporting the event run by Severn Rivers Trust, which will focus on how the NFM can increase farm productivity. Shared community spaces play a vital role in improving the quality of life in Herefordshire, particularly post-COVID, as well as fostering a sense of community and belonging. The new Public Realm Services operating model was approved in Q3, and the completion of Public Realm improvement works also reached practical completion in December. In addition, a library design consultant was appointed, and the interim library was relocated to the Town Hall whilst exciting redevelopment work is underway. To reflect the increased housing targets that the Council has been set, the Council is reviewing where these allocations will be sited around Hereford as part of the review of the local plan. Accommodating the growth that was not anticipated within the previous business case for the Hereford Transport Plan is likely to impact on the assumptions on alignment and design of the current route of the Western Bypass as a result of changes to traffic levels and movements. As a result, this will require a comprehensive review of the business case to meet the current requirements of the Government's Green Book approach. Turning to the third of our themes, growth, I would like to highlight that the graphic shows that of the 40 milestones in the plan, 11 have been completed, 16 are on target, 12 are at risk of missing a deadline, and 1 is not on target. A key mechanism to bring employment opportunities to the county is to attract businesses. A review of employment land needs and opportunities county-wide is complete, with commissioning work to consider further feasibility of business units in Bromyard being considered, as well as business hubs in each market town. In the meantime, the plot sales in the enterprise zone is currently on track and current businesses continue to be supported. 15 properties are being purchased through the single homelessness accommodation programme, specifically for young people identified at risk of homelessness. In addition, homeless prevention activity and engagement with rough sleepers to enable them to access accommodation and appropriate support is continuing with the support of partners and making additional accommodation available. The business case for the proposed Golden Valley Parkway railway station is awaiting sign-off of the requirements for additional professional services to carry out this work. Once agreed, the procurement of these services will then commence. The fourth and final theme of transformation shows within the graphic that there are 25 milestones, with 8 completed, 12 on target, and 5 at risk of missing a deadline. Work is continuing at pace to develop strategic and directorate transformation programs to support the delivery of the transformation strategy and the future council operating model. The residents and businesses of Herefordshire are at the heart of everything we do, and there is also recognition that the needs of our customers can vary, so there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Following consultation with a range of stakeholders, the customer charter and customer standards have been refreshed, with the next phase of customer service transformation focusing on the overall operating model. The focus of the target operating model is to ensure that customers get the best possible customer experience however they choose to contact us, maximising the use of technology to create an efficient customer journey. The Council have engaged a new telephony system and wide area network provider, and the implementation of new systems will result in several strategic operational customer-facing benefits. These developments also ensure that the Council's network infrastructure is future-proof, secure, and able to meet the growing demands of modern service delivery. As I explained in the Q1 report earlier this year, the Office for Local Government, or Oflog, is an office of the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and has been established to provide information about the performance of local government to audiences in all levels of government and to the public. However, some of the data published by Oflog is historic and therefore should be interpreted with caution. The following top 10 indicators have therefore been selected by Herefordshire Council to demonstrate a more meaningful indication of our latest performance. The percentage of service users aged 65 plus discharged from hospital into Home First who are still at home 91 days after discharge. Our Q3 projection was 80%, our Q3 actual 78.75%. Percentage of children and young people social work assessments completed within timescale of 45 days. Projection 82%, Q3 actual 63.5%. Percentage of children in care who have an up-to-date review, target 95%, actual 99.5%. Percentage of planning applications dealt with in 13 weeks, target 70%, actual achieved 88.89%. Percentage of non-major planning applications dealt with in 8 weeks, projection 80%, actual target achieved 77.63%. And the number of kilograms of waste not sent to reuse housing or composting, projection 320 kilograms, actual achieved 325.08 kilograms. Number of affordable homes delivered, target 199, achieved 209. Local count of Herefordshire homelessness, target was 5, achieved 5. And the value of grants awarded to business support viability and enable growth was, target was £1.6 million, and we actually achieved £2.9 million. And finally, the average days of sickness per FTE, target was 9, and we achieved 8.04. So in respect to the one red KPI, I would like to provide the following context. The percentage of children and young people's social work assessments completed within timescale, staffing pressure in managing vacancies and agency turnover have impacted on our ability in periods to manage these in a timely way. However, the service manager has worked effectively with the team managers and assessment teams and in other parts of the service to keep on top of this work, which is reflected in the year-to-date improvement trend. We now have permanency in all 4 assessment team manager posts, and in the new locality model, there is more management capacity to support smaller teams. Appendix A to the report provides a detailed status of all 179 milestones contained within the delivery plan across the 4 themes of people, place, growth and transformation. In conclusion, this report highlights the continuing good work that Herefordshire Council is carrying out in support of our residents, and I would now like to invite my Cabinet colleagues to endorse both it and its single recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoddart. Cabinet colleagues, do we have any comments? Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Stoddart, for your very good report, as you always do. I would just like to pick up on the Golden Valley Parkway. Over the period of time that we've been working with Network Rail on the transport hub, it has been quite difficult for to get engagement through their systems to be able to get the land purchased and so the legal sorted out for the transport hub, which is now all been done. And during that process, I met with a lady, Denise Wetton, who is the route leader, the route director for Network Rail, and I expressed my concerns, which she took on board, and I also raised concerns over the railway crossing for the Southern Relief Road or Western Bypass Phase 1, and the issue of moving forward with the Golden Valley Parkway. Network Rail are actually doing their own study at this moment in time for the line from Abergavenny to Hereford and Newport to Manchester, same line, as to what time slot availability there is on that line, and I've asked to get that speeded up so our task group can move forward with building the business case for the parkway. Other than that, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Any other Cabinet members? Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Stoddart. Yeah, a couple of things. The wetlands are performing well, and we've now been able to grant planning permission for 797 houses, and there are 360 that have been offered credits. So that's really good to know that we're getting some development there, along with obviously a benefit to the river. I also wanted to touch on the carbon reduction target. I suppose the thing is that we don't reduce in a smooth line, but we set targets in a smooth line. So it actually steps down, or it will miss for a bit, and then it will get back on track. So it is our expectation that things already in train, as referenced in the report with the move to full EV refuse collection and so forth, that we'll see that come back into line. But I also have further mitigating steps in the pipeline, which I would hope to see this then move beyond the target within the very immediate future. We're clearly working on this all the time, and it's worth reflecting. You know, this was a journey that we started way back in sort of its benchmark 2008-9, and since then, you know, we've delivered 63.2% reduction, which is 16,370 tons of CO2. Which is not bad, really. So I would say we'll see that back on track. But I wanted to explain that. Just say it's simply the reporting mechanism that assumes a smooth slope, which doesn't exist. And what else I want to say? We are. Yeah, and so the other thing about carbon reduction is a bit like limbo dancing. The lower you go, harder it gets. And so we're now convening, and I'm supported by my cabinet colleagues, convening cabinet meetings to look at ways in which, working across the council, we can all, put our heads together and see where we can, what we can do to get to that target. And one of the things as well, also in this report, is the home upgrade grant, which is retrofitting homes, and domestic properties is one of those areas which are emitters, and we can put money in, retrofit those for people, and we've got 167 have been upgraded, further 63 are with contractors, 14 are being approved, and 264 have so far received assessments, and we are a leader in this field. So it's really good work, good for our residents who are getting involved with that scheme, and good for our carbon reduction in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swindlehurst. And I just reflect that with regard to the percentage of children and young people with social work assessments being completed within 45 days, we're moving to the locality model. So that's going to create smaller teams with increased managerial oversight. So that will ensure that that figure is improving, and those assessments will be done in a much shorter time. So that's really, really encouraging. But that's a development that with the locality model that I think will really pay dividends. So work in progress there, but there is a strategy there to improve that situation, which is really encouraging. Right, if there's no other Cabinet members to comment, then we'll go to group leaders, and Councillor O'Driscoll's got his hand up first.
Thank you, Leader. You've all sort of touched on a couple of things, just a couple of areas. I want to highlight children, young people, and climate action. It is really concerning that a third of social work assessments for children and young people are still not being completed within 45 days. And I think we do have to remember that these aren't just numbers, these are children and families. You mentioned that the teams are getting smaller, but what is actually causing the delays? I mean, is it staff shortages? You didn't say we're increasing the number, the size of the teams, or is it excessive caseloads? Is it inefficiencies in the process itself? Why does it make it? Why will we be able to complete these assessments within 45 days if the teams are smaller? I'd just like to dig into that a little bit and understand how that's happening, if that's not getting into the weeds too much. And as far as climate action is concerned, we are delivering some significant headline actions, I think, such as the Youth Climate Conference. But it does appear a little bit like the more complex, high-impact actions are getting pushed a bit down the road, and it is very disappointing that the CO2 reduction target hasn't been met, as Councillor Swindlehurst touched on. And things like the fact that heat decarbonisation of 5 key buildings is now not happening might have helped a little bit. Is the executive prioritising easy wins, possibly, over meaningful action? And what are the specific barriers that are causing us to miss this target, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Invite other group leaders before we round up. Councillor Toynbee, thank you.
Yes, thanks. This is a very useful document, thank you. And some of us were at the delivery plan PGC this morning, where we discussed the delivery plan. It was useful. Not many councillors sadly were able to attend, so I'm not sure if that was the only session, but I hope it wasn't. I hope there'll be other opportunities for the same thing, as so few of us were actually there. One of the questions I asked then was for updated information on the council website, because it's very difficult for residents and for us to get a clear picture of the council plan, the local plan, Reg 18, Reg 19, NPPF, housing targets, local transport plan, that they're all interconnected. How do they all interact? It's very complicated. Obviously, as Greens, we want to ensure that they interact in a holistic way, and we don't want to get into sort of catch-22 situation with them that delays any progress. So part of our role is to inform and explain things to residents. So I hope that we can put something useful up on the website about all those things, an update. Especially as, the plan is something that we're going to be going out for public consultation on. So it's really important that people do feel informed. Just to pick out a couple of items on the report. On page 6, we've got integrate biodiversity net gain into the planning process. There's a lot of controversial stuff around offsetting, as we know, and as Greens, we don't want to see any weakening of biodiversity regulation. And as a council, we're very vocal about restoring nature being one of our priorities. So we hope that we can do better than the bare minimum that we see some people doing around the country. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on this and ensuring that developers, where possible, do mitigation on site. There's something about habitat banks in here. And we don't want to get to a situation of, you know, we've chopped down 100 trees in Webley, but never mind, we've planted a few saplings in Dorstone, you know, that kind of thing. Ideally, the offsetting and the mitigation should happen on site, ideally. So I hope that we'll keep the pressure up on developers about that. We're keen to have progress on the Golden Valley Parkway station, so it was good to have that update from Councillor Price just now, because we weren't sure what lay behind the delays in engagement with Network Rail in the report. So we'll continue to press for progress on that. And finally, we're disappointed to see no mention of buses in here, and we hope we'll soon have an update about our enhanced partnership meetings. It was very noticeable in the context of your presentation about housing and prioritising providing new housing for residents, and many cabinet members, which was very welcome, were waxing lyrical about how we should all do cross-party work and put our heads together and have conferences and all roll our sleeves up and get stuck in together and everything. So I would really like us to make progress on buses, which are arguably just as important to our residents, in that same open cross-party spirit, keeping us all informed, all engaged, putting our heads together and really trying to make progress on our bus services. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toynbee. And finally, but by no means least, Councillor Claire Davis.
Thank you, Leader. I would like to say that it's great news to hear that Network Rail are doing their own study, and we're very pleased in our particular area that we do have buses. I'm sorry to hear that other places aren't having buses, but we certainly are. It's also good to hear that the wetlands are meeting targets, and I understand that the carbon reduction is going to be very difficult. I understand that. What most concerns me at the moment is the upgrade of housing. Is there a map? We've already been told how many have been upgraded, how many need to be upgraded, but is there a map to show us whereabouts these areas are? By any chance? Yeah? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to that point. So, Cabinet members, you've heard those comments. With regard to Councillor O'Driscoll's point about the not meeting the 45-day assessment. So, as Councillor Stoddard said, I think it was the one of the issues with the management of vacant posts, where they've been unable to recruit suitable agency or permanent staff for the earlier part of the year. But there's been cross-service support undertaken to prevent a backlog, and the recruitment continues. As all councillors will know, where there are recruitment issues in the service, that's going to have a direct impact on service delivery. But there's the locality model, as I say, which is a more focused approach with increased managerial oversight. So we're optimistic that that will address the issue, and we'll be able to improve on that statistic in terms of meeting those children's assessments. And it's very poignant to note that when we are dealing with statistics, we must always be mindful of the fact that there are people, that this is about people and providing services for people, not addressing statistics. Councillor Stoddard, sorry.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Toynbee, we mentioned at the PGC that you alluded to earlier, I did show in the council plan, there is the pages 36 and 37 show all of the plans and how they all act, and that's actually interactive on the website, and it is updated. And I haven't got my copy of the next year's delivery plan to hand, so I haven't been able to check it out, but I'm pretty sure there is a milestone in there talking about buses. As I flicked through this morning, I'm sure it's in there.
Okay, so there were some comments with regard to concerns about meeting targets on our environment. Councillor Swinglehurst, can you take those comments on board with addressing Cabinet?
Happy to. Yeah, it is disappointing that we're 1.8% short of where we would wish to be. But I think we have to see that, you know, in the context of what's been a long journey, and to bear in mind that the way that these things feed through the system is not smooth. So it's a reporting anomaly. That this is reflecting the council's journey, not the county's journey. The obstacles are different for both, because obviously we are in control of the council, and we're not in control of the county in terms of emissions. So we can encourage and support and try to create a good positive environment for people to do the right thing for emissions, but we can't make it happen. And that, so, you know, behaviour change is quite a tricky thing to do, and I think we're there to lead by example and try to facilitate where we can. We have got things in train that will bring this back into line with target, so that's kind of it's just that they haven't fed through the system yet, and things in train that should see us then going ahead of that target. The main areas for us, I think, are, as they are sort of generally, I guess, things like heating these buildings and people coming to work. You know, all of these things have an impact, and we need to work at reducing that impact, which we are doing. The point about biodiversity net gain that Councillor Toynbee was making, of course, biodiversity net gain came about as a result of the government's Environment Act. A certain amount of it is already, therefore, prescribed by that Act, including a desirability to see the offset on site and not off site. But nevertheless, there will be a requirement for off site, and we're working with who we feel to be trusted and worthwhile delivery partners, so that it's not an exercise in greenwashing, but something that will be used meaningfully to deliver multiple benefits, not just a biodiversity benefit, because a BNG well used can also do things like create you know, some flood attenuation, mitigation, things like that, if you use it intelligently and strategically, which is what we intend to do. But you know, you're right, it's all about the quality of the delivery, and we certainly intend to do what we can to make that at the highest possible quality. I think Councillor Davis, you were mentioning about the geographical location of the homes. The home upgrade grant is not geographical. It has different criteria. So things like income and need will fall into the criteria for it, but it's something you apply for. The criteria are not too complex, and anyone who's interested can look it up online, and we welcome applications to that scheme. Is there anything else?
No, thank you for that. And just the point that was mentioned about buses, the importance of buses, and the need for the council to work collaboratively as one council to ensure that buses remains a priority issue. I can remember Councillor Simmons at a full council meeting requesting a bus summit, which would involve as many councillors who are interested, and we are committing to having that summit, and I've been advised that will be in May or June, and that's just subject to agreeing a venue. But as soon as that has been established, we will be letting all members know, and there'll be an open invitation to all members to attend that and contribute accordingly. So if there are no further comments from Cabinet members, then there's the one recommendation, Councillor Stoddart, which I'm sure you're keen to propose, and I will second. All Cabinet members accept the recommendation. Thank you. There we go. Okay, it just remains for me to say thank you to everyone for their attendance, both in person or virtually. And thank you for all of your comments and contributions. The next meeting is scheduled for the 27th of March at 2:30 in Plough Lane. I will now formally close the meeting and ask everyone to leave the building in an orderly fashion who are members of the public. Thank you very much, and if I can ask for the live stream to be stopped.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.